Pleasant evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Shamar Wedderburn, Managing Director of Equipped to Speak Personal Development Services. And it's truly a pleasure to welcome you to this, our second session of Conversations in Professional Development. For those unfamiliar with us, at Equipped to Speak, we believe that personal and professional growth happens most powerfully when people are given the opportunity to think together, reflect together, and learn from the lived experience of others who have walked the path before them. While many development spaces focus heavily on technical knowledge, we also know that some of the most important lessons about work, about presence, judgment, communication are really written manuals, but they're learned through experience, observation, and thoughtful conversation. And that's the spirit behind this series. Conversation and professional development is designed as your learning room, a space where professionals can pause from the everyday hustle of work and learn real perspectives from practitioners who have spent years navigating the very same environments we're now growing in. It is our hope that these conversations not only help sharpen your skills, but deepen the understanding of what it means to grow, lead, and carry yourself with intention. So, whether you're joining us from either of the sectors or you're just someone committed to developing yourself professionally, we're very glad to have you here. As we continue throughout the conversation this evening, feel free to let us know in the chat where you're joining us from and what professional space you're joining us from. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the expert guiding our discussion this evening. Ms. Sandrina Davis, a transformational leader, nonprofit executive, author, speaker, and mentor with over 12 years' experience advancing community development and people centered leadership in Jamaica. As CEO of the Grace and Staff Community Development Foundation, she leads impactful programs in education, STEM, mentorship, and workforce readiness. Her career spans senior leadership roles where she has driven organizational growth, built strong teams, and secured funding. Deeply committed to mentorship, she supports youth and young adults in developing confidence, leadership, and life skills. She holds an MBA in multiple certifications in leadership, governance, and ministry, and is a published author of works focused on purpose driven impact. As Justice of the Peace and award winning leader, she is known for blending strategic thinking with compassion to create lasting change in individuals and communities. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our second session, the ripple effect. These are how it is that you shape how you lead people. Thank you for being here. But with no further ado, I will introduce you to our presenter who is here with her smiles and ready to give everyone a fantastic session. Sandrina, it's a pleasure to have you here. And we thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It is my joy to be here, and I want to tell you thanks for the invitation. All right. Good evening, everyone. Let me thank you so much for choosing to spend this part of the night learning a little bit more. And, when we're in this kind of setting and we don't necessarily get to see who is watching, then we wonder, right? So, wherever you are, if you're watching on the LinkedIn Live and if you're over there in YouTube land, I'm asking you, make sure that you say something in the comments so that we know that you're here, you're tracking with us, you're engaged, and that what we're saying is helping you in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, Shamara and I may just run over. Oh, I saw my first comment. Hey, Janelle, good evening. All right, so we're talking the ripple effect, how the way we lead shapes others. And I'm looking forward to kind of just sharing a little bit of what's on my heart and then also leaving some space for questions. So the general notion when we have guest speakers is that we come and we listen. But sometimes there are people in the audience that what they really wanted to get, they didn't get. So we're definitely making space for that. So if you have questions, type them. Shamar and his team are paying attention, and they will pause me to make sure that your question is answered. So let's get into it. I want to start today by just talking a little bit about three words: the ripple effect. Now, this is not a new concept, it's not a new term. Many of us have heard it before, but I do want to kind of put a definition on the table for our conversation tonight. And just to say that the ripple effect is the idea that one action, decision, or moment can create a series of impacts that extend far beyond the original situation or your original intent. What do I mean by that? Many a times the ripple effect is unintentional. It wasn't the first thought of how our actions are, right? But I want to also share with us tonight that the ripple effect can be positive and the ripple effect can be negative. We're not talking no negativity this evening. We are focusing on positive ripples, positive ripple effects. And so I want us to bear that in mind. Now, if it comes up on your screen, I have a little video that I want you to see, a little ripple effect happening. And then we're going to talk a little bit about it as you're looking at it. But if you don't see it, I need you to visualize with me, right? We have creative imaginations. So imagine the ripple. And imagine us going to the beach or going to the river and we drop a little stone in the water, right? We drop a little stone in the water and it falls down, plop, and then whatever happens after is the ripple effect. The files are named, so it's just look at the file name and you can work alongside me. So the ripple effect is that plop in the water and then you have the waves or the ripples that come across. What I want us to think about when we're talking about the ripple effect is that the first drop is what we all see, right? So when we drop that stone in the water, the first drop is what we all see. It's immediate, it's very visible, and a lot of times we don't necessarily think about the other part of it, which really is that ripple effect. I want us to think about the ripple effect. The ripple effect is really what is most important, right? Because it's what happens next. And these ripples spread outwards. A lot of times they ripple beyond what we can see. We don't even know how far it has gone. Now, here's the thing, a lot of times we focus just on the big drop, we focus on what we've done. um, I want to encourage us to focus on the ripple as well. So, not just the big drop, but the ripple as well, because the big drop is often me focused, right? The big drop is what I did. You know, I led the team, I worked on the project, I wrote this speech, I did this charity event, I so on and so forth. That's the big drop. But the ripple is other focused. And if we take our minds off ourselves for a little bit and become other focused, then it helps us in how we lead others. Thank you. There's my ripple. So if you're a visual learner, ensure that you're looking on the screen and looking at that. But bear in mind that we want you to think about the others in everything that we do. The ripple is about others. The big drop is about me, but the ripple is about others. It's about who we impacted, right? Because we kept our word, because we showed up, because we spoke up, because we were firm and respectful. And let's talk a little bit about leadership. It's not a title, just to be clear. We don't just become a leader when they give us that team lead or supervisor or manager or executive director role. Leadership starts long before that. And whether we believe it or not, we are always leading, always leading. You know why? Because somebody is always watching us. And if somebody is always watching us, then we are always leading. Now, in today's day and age, it's hard for us to be hidden, right? People are able to see us even when they were not there where we were in the physical space. People are able to keep up with us even they're not beside us. And so I want us to remember that somebody is always watching. Now, if we are aware and alert that somebody is always watching, then that should guide our actions, because the world now has a front row seat to everything that we do. Now, when we think about the fact that somebody is always watching us, our thoughts should go to, hmm, I now want to ensure that the things that I do can leave a positive ripple on those who have witnessed it, whether directly or indirectly. Yes? And so we want to be thinking about that. Now, when we put that in our minds, I caution us that we become big picture thinkers. Now, there are many definitions for big picture thinkers, right? So I'm going to put my definition in the mix for us tonight. What do I mean by the big picture thinker? Well, truthfully, we've all become selfie generations, right? If you are a lover of selfies, make sure that you let me know in the comments. But the truth is, I want us to be thinking big picture. When we take a picture with our friends, and just a regular picture, we've gone out, we've hung out, we've worked on something, that group picture, our eyes go to ourselves first. We look at us in the picture, yeah, how I look. In my case, I'm just like, let me see if my belly is flat, right? We're looking at ourselves first. But the big picture thinking asks us to look a little bit wider. Not just about our comfort, not just about our perception, but how does it affect everybody else? Big picture thinking is what is going to cause us to lead in a way that creates great ripples. That we are not just making a decision for ourselves, that we are not just approaching a task because of us, but we're thinking about all the players in the puzzle. So the big picture thinker is thinking, yes, that's it. The big picture thinker is saying, how does this affect me? How does this affect my country? How does this affect my school, my workplace? How does this affect my family? How does this decision affect the vulnerable populations? Because the truth is, when stuff doesn't affect us directly, half the times we don't care. We absolutely don't care. But big picture thinking causes us to think about the others. And thinking about others is a great sign of a leader. Now, I'm going to share something with you. It's a little spoiler alert. I have friends who don't like me for it, but it's something that I've kept for myself that has helped me to be a big picture thinker. So, all the people who get excited when the rain starts to fall and them gone home to wrap up in them blanket because weather and you watch movie and you eat, I am not your friend tonight because my thought immediately goes to those who are homeless, those who are living under the gullies, those who don't have anywhere to rest them head when water is flooding all over Kingston and St. Andrew and wherever else. This is how I've taught myself to be a big picture thinker. Now, the truth is, I cannot go out there and save every homeless person on the planet, but my thought has caused me to do many other things. And for you, it will be a different action when you think about the big picture. I have multiple umbrellas in my car. I've stopped on the road and said, would you like an umbrella? Because that's all I can do in the moment. But because I'm thinking about the big picture, I'm also trying to help somebody else who is not as fortunate as me to have stable roofing, right? And it's a simple act, it's a simple task. But the truth is, if we don't condition our minds to think big picture, then we continue in our way of being selfish. And selfish people are not great leaders. Selfish people do not shape others in a positive way. The way we shape others is going to be directly linked to if we think big picture. So after today, if you are not a big picture thinker, if you are a selfie person, I am asking you to condition your mind to think big picture because this is what is going to move our country forward. This is what's going to help us to solve some of the problems that we are waiting on the powers that be to solve. Yeah. So we want to be thinking a little bit about that. And that's the way that we want to do it. So this is the fact that causes us to think big picture. Leadership is not just about what we say, but it's about what we model. So we want to remember that every decision, every action, every reaction, it ripples. And I want to drive that point home because a lot of times we don't notice that everything that we do ripples. And if we were to pause, or maybe in another time when we walk about a road, persons would share their examples, they'd realize that the things that we do have ripples. And so we want to be mindful of that. So if you just jumped on and you're like, what is she talking about? We're really talking about the ripple effect, how the way we lead shapes others. And we started our discussion by just creating that imagery of what the ripple looks like, but reminding us that we're not supposed to just focus on that big drop, but we need to be focused on the ripples. And thinking about the ripples causes us to be other focused and not me focused. Good leaders are not focused on themselves, they're focused on the people that they serve. I reminded everybody that somebody's always watching us. So in truth and in fact, we're all leaders. And it's not reserved for those with the titles or those that have the most experience, but we are all leaders in our own right. Something I want to put in here for us to think about, especially those who are not yet at the highest end of the organizational chart, that sometimes the leader is not the one with the influence. Sometimes the leader is not the one with the influence. So even if you are a leader in quotations by title and job description, you also want to be very careful how you deal with everybody else because the person of influence may be in your team and they can make sure that everybody feels the same way that they feel about you. And so, as a leader, you want to be very careful how you deal with people. So, a big part of the reason why Shamar invited me to share and be playing on the ripple effect because in March 15 to be exact, I got a chance to with my wonderful mentee Janelle, launched this book called The Ripple Effect: 5 Keys to Making a Difference That Lasts. And I want to share the keys with you. That is not your excuse not to go buy the book, right? It's supposed to spur you into action. I want to just big up Janelle for working on this with me. But I do believe that these 5 keys are also going to help us on our leadership journey. And those simple, they will help you to create that ripple. So here's the thing. You remember people say back to basics? This book is causing us to come back to basics because basics are foundational and foundational stands, right? And so we want to come back to basics. So when we talk about the keys, the 5 keys in our book, they are empathy over sympathy, empower, not embarrass, listen more, talk less, love equals relationship, and mentorship as a legacy multiplier. Now, I'm going to say something about each of them, and I hope that it will resonate with you so that you don't miss it in the future. And what I want us to do is to challenge ourselves to kind of try a key a week time, try a key per week. Don't push to do anything extra because sometimes we make these lofty goals for ourselves and then we fail and we feel a little bit disappointed. But if we just take it small, simple actions, and it will get us to where we need to go. So when we share the keys, think about it. The week almost done. Tomorrow is Friday, but you can for the week of April 20 say, you know what? I'm going to try this key this week and see how it shapes the persons that I am dealing with. So the first one is empathy over sympathy. Um, and this one I think is important, especially for those who work alongside persons, right? The notion that people are always going through something has to stand out. A lot of times we only remember that we are going through something. Yes. Now, if you are an empathetic leader, it doesn't take away your strength. It doesn't make you weak by any stretch of the imagination. What it does, it puts you in a position to understand that we're humans and some days we are at our best and some days we are not at our best. Now, what you want as a leader is for people to trust you enough to tell you when they are not at their best. And then you will now express or pass through that process of being empathetic, right? Not feeling sorry for people, but just kind of understanding. And this allows us to kind of put ourselves in the shoe of the individual, right? So if a team member is not well, but they came to work anyway, and they came to work and said, I'm not feeling well, but I came anyway. No, the leader should kind of get it in their heads that you are getting 70% performance today because the person is not well. You cannot expect the same thing if they already expressed that they were not feeling well. Now, the leader could also say, boy, I really think you should just go home and get some rest. I'd like you at your optimum. I'd like you at your best. Um, and that does not take away from you being a leader, right? So you want to think about all of that. And I think that it's important that we consider how we deal with the information that comes to us. So now that I know that Shamar is not feeling well, right? I can just work through that with Shamar, but I don't have to tell everybody else. Shamar come here sick, and so on and so forth. I can manage that information. I remember once I was working with a team member, and everybody knows that traffic is a nightmare for those who are on the roads. And I remember the morning the team member called to share the traffic is so bad, I am running late. And the team member sounded so distressed because one, they don't want to be late, but two, the traffic is so bad. And I said to the team member, I said, where are you? And they expressed where they were. And I said, the things that you have to do today, what are they? And they listed them. And I said, that sounds like you could do it from home today, right? And the person said yes. And I said, well, turn around and go home and do the work from there. Now the team member was in shock because what? I need my team at their best. I need you to be happy and functional. And after you spent 2.5 hours in traffic trying to get to my workspace, you are not your best. You are not happy and functional. You are miserable, hot and tired and stressed. And what I will get when you finally reach the office is another hour of you complaining about your journey with your team members. Then you finally get to the task, and then you're so stressed out that you don't get to do it that well, and it's time for you to go fight the traffic again. So I had to make a decision on the matter of empathy because I also drive and I also know what the road looks like. So I could not operate like I don't know how traffic is. Now, everybody's situation is going to be different. But the truth is, we kind of have to think about how we lead persons. And the key, important. The other key is empower and not embarrass. Now, in the context of leadership, I want to use this one to talk about how we correct, how we help our team members to strengthen their areas that need improvement because we don't talk weaknesses, right? Um, and so the way that we do that has to be in a way that lifts them up rather than break them down. And there are many theories around how you give feedback and so on and so forth. I simply say, this has been my mantra all my life. The things I did not like, the managers that I had, that they did to me, I will never do it to anybody else. Sandrina chapter 1, verse 1. That is the way I live. So when I am helping a team member to grow, when I am helping them to develop, when I am pointing out what was not done the best way, I am mindful of the fact that I need to be lifting them up rather than breaking them down. So they're still going to know that it was not done very well. They're still going to know that it was not their best, but they're also not going to walk away from it feeling like they are the worst of the worst. And we have to be mindful of the words that we use in those discussions, right? So empowerment is kind of helping persons to rise. So we have to start at where it was great. The PowerPoint today, Vanessa, was so beautiful. Is Canva you used to do it? And Vanessa said, yes. And I said, well, I thought it was very engaging and eye-catching. I also noticed that the text that it seemed as if it was copied and pasted from AI. Um, but like some of the things, like the other lines that said, "Would you like some more?" They were still there. I think next time you want to just be a little bit more, pay attention to detail, ensure that you have what you want on the slide to be on the slide. And by this time, Vanessa start feel bad knowing it because nobody wants to copy and paste Chat GPT and it shows. And then at the end of that, I'm gonna say, Vanessa, you know, that this one time it happened to me. Vanessa shocked because, oh, the manager made a mistake. Yes, we are humans too. And I share my experience with Vanessa. And then I say, this is what I do going forward. When I finished working on something, I ask somebody else to look at it because my eyes have seen it so long that I think it is the best thing ever. And we know that that happens. And so Vanessa walks away knowing that she made a boo boo. However, her boss did not stomp her into the ground. She was still leaving the conversation feeling a little bit empowered. The third key is listen more and talk less. This is untapped gold, in my opinion, because the way how we love to talk now in this life, myself included, if we're not careful, we're not listening. But really, really listening. Really, really, really listening. And that causes for us to be quiet sometimes. So when we ask persons to talk to us and we say, tell me what you think, then we should really allow them to tell us what they think. A leader who gives space for those that you work with to actually be heard and seen will always be the one that people want to work with. Nobody wants to feel invisible, like they're not brilliant, like they have nothing to contribute, right? So if you are mastering listen more and talk less, you are winning. And now let me explain. Some people, when they share what they have to share in our teams, it is of no value. It cannot help the price of rice. That's not the point. The point is we allow them the space to say what's on their minds. You can what hi Rona. You can also um say, so one of the things I do, I always want to know what people have to think. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Even if I already know what I'm going to do. I hope nobody from my team is on here listening to this. Even if I already know what I'm going to do, I want to know what you think. Allowing persons to share in anything They take ownership because now they were part of the design, they were part of the idea building. And so when it's time to execute, everybody jump on deck, because guess what? They now own this. My boss asked me for my input. They asked me which color, what day we think is best. So people want to participate. When you go and you just say, guys, this is what we're going to do, bam, bam, tap, 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 are you one going to do it? You and God, because you did not bring us in. You did not bring them in. And so they don't want to help you. So the kind of thing about listening and talking less, listening more and talking less, it's kind of allowing people into it. When people feel like they're a part of something, they take ownership and they go and run with it. And that's what we want as leaders. We want to shape others in a way that they will run with it. The fourth key is love equals relationship. Now, this one's big for me because the truth is, all our problems in this life are at base people problems. Every problem is at the base of it. It's people problems. Think about every problem that could come up in the workplace, in our homes, in our relationships, geopolitical. All our problems are people problems. If we master how we deal with people, we are winning in this life. So, love equals relationship for me says that we really need to be focusing on building positive relationships, not best friendships, right? Because we're not going to be best friends with everybody that we work with or meet. Well, some people have the blessing of finding that kind of dynamic, right? But the truth is, it may not happen for everybody. But you want it cordial, you want it respectful, and you want it working. And the way that it can work is if we actually genuinely care about the people. The phrase around people, talk about people don't care about something something, but they just remember how you made them feel or something like that. Well, I don't have it. But anyways, the point is how we deal with people. People can tell if we are authentic in our interactions with them. It's a gift that God gave to the Jamaicans that we can sniff out a fake from a mile away. So, Jamaicans know who's sincere. Jamaicans know who really care. Jamaicans know real, know real. And so, if we can try our best to have real, authentic relationships, then it will help the way we lead others. It will help the way how we shape, how our leadership shapes others, right? Because nobody wants a leader who, like, hi, hi, Shamar, how are you? How was your weekend? But by the time you start telling them how was the weekend, they cut you off. So can I have the report on my desk by 2? Because we never really care how your weekend was. We're just going through the motions. Or how are you? And you say, not too, but and everybody just move on. Because the truth is, they didn't really care how you were doing. They're just asking those questions because we want to ask those questions. It's important that we chase after authentic relationships. Authentic relationships are going to be a game changer for our future activities. And the fifth key, written by Janelle, right? So I hope I represent her very well here in this part. But even in our spaces as leaders and how we shape other people, mentorship is a big part of that. And when we talk about mentorship, I just see mentorship as relationships, authentic relationships. So if you think about mentorship and you try to itemize the 4 tenets of it, you may run into problems. But if you're thinking about, I want to build a relationship where I can learn from someone or have someone learn from me, that's a great place to start. I also want to put on the table that mentorship is formal and informal. So there are people learning from us every day. People are learning from whatever Equipped to Speak puts out. People are learning from what Sandrina is sharing on a daily basis. They are not necessarily documented as, in a mentorship relationship. And so if I can tie mentorship to our big picture thinking, that the things that we do, we must be mindful that there are people taking their cues from us. And so the leader who wants to ensure that their leadership shapes other people must be mindful of the fact that those in your care or those who you are working with can benefit from your mentorship. And that mentorship has to be just a very real relationship. It includes honesty, because we're not telling lies in 2026, right? So you're not saying yes to everything, but you're also taking that approach in a way that is building up the person and not tearing them down. And mentorship is one of the things that creates a large ripple, because guess what? One person had a great mentorship experience. They now want to be a mentor. They're telling other people about mentorship and how it changed their life. And all of a sudden, everybody is trying to gain in this way. So, this is a huge key because it helps to transform lives. Now, there is one last thing that I do want to share with us, because I hope that there are persons on here who are aspiring to be leaders or are leading already. I had the opportunity um, to share on this in another setting, and when I express who I am and what I do, I talk a lot about that I lead with a people first mentality, um, because I try to be other focused and not me focused. And so I conceptualize that I think that the sauce of people leadership is a critical element, and I want to share the sauce with us. This is the last thing that I will share, and then I'll be open to any questions if there are any. I want to share the sauce. Now, here's the thing about sauce, because we're Jamaicans, right? Everything tastes better with sauce. Let's just be clear. And I hope it's not me one feel that, because you have some people that put ketchup on everything, right? Or like me, when I go to Popeyes, I'm going to buy the sweet heat sauce in multiples because I like it. So sauce make everything better. And so I wanted to share the sauce of people first leadership. It's an acronym. So there's support, there's authenticity, there's understanding, there's connection, and there's empowerment. And a lot of this is tied up in even how the keys were shared earlier. The idea is that when we talk about support, people want leaders who they know care about them for real in a real life. Like you actually care about the people, not just the output that they're putting on, right? And if a team member feels supported, they're gonna go the extra mile. They're gonna go all out. So we can't just think that I just want you to come do your work here, because it's not work shamar that turns up to the business place. It's just shamar. Shamar with whatever is happening at home, shamar with whatever is happening at church, shamar with whatever is happening in his relationship. It's the same shamar showing up everywhere. So this thing about, leave your problems at the door, I don't subscribe to it. Bring all of it, come. As your leader, I will help you to navigate as best as I can, because when you are all right, my work is all right. That's really what it is, right? So the support part is very important, because if you are giving your team members support, there is nothing that they won't do for you. By the way, tried and proven. There's nothing that they will not do because they feel support. Then we talk about the A for authenticity. All people want is the leader who remembers that they started from the bottom, now they're here, right? Some people have forgotten that they were a receptionist, that they were a clerk, that they used to be a salesperson. Them don't remember. They just remember this new fancy title that they have. And that's crazy to me, because if you actually did the ladder to success, then it should really shape how you lead others. Yeah. Then we have the U of understanding. That for me asks us to really kind of try to get to know the people that are on our teams, the people that are working with us. And when we say get to know them, no, right? Me not talk about just a little pizza we will buy to celebrate something. I'm talking when the person share, by the way, that oh, I'm so sorry, boss, I have to take a few days off because my mom is sick and in the hospital. I really expect the leader, when they come back to work, to say, hey, how's your mom doing? By the way, the team member is going to be so shocked that you remember. They will be like, well, and my boss really business bombing here, so they're not even going to know how to answer, because that kind of care is unmatched. So understanding means that we want to pay attention, because a lot of times our team members are giving us the information about what's going on with them. But because we're so focused on the work, we now remember. So they're telling us what's happening with them. They also told us a lot of things on the little form that they signed when they're coming to work with us. Use that information to allow you to get to know the persons in your team. Ask HR. Get 5 people to lead. Ask HR. Can I see the file? I need to know who these people are. I need to know who on my team has young children. I need to know who on my team has any illnesses. I need to know who on my team, lives here, there, or whatever. That information helps a leader. It's strategy, it's tactical. It allows you to give that kind of one on one leadership. Something that I had missed one of the times when I was having a team member. I didn't even know that the person don't eat meat. No, how would I have the person on my team and I don't know they don't eat meat? Imagine the shame and embarrassment on the day when I was taking them for their first day lunch and I walk them to a restaurant that sell everything that they don't eat. Womp, womp, womp. Come on, leader. Find a way to get to know your teams because it helps you to lead them better. So I'm not talking because I've attained. I'm still learning, but I know that it is important. Where were we? See, the C is connection, and we're talking real connections here. Um, a lot of times as leaders, we're organizing the team building activities. We're paying for it, we're approving it, we're authorizing it, but we're not there. No, the teams don't really need you to help them to connect with each other. They do that every day in their work. When they're complaining about you, when they must say bad things about you, and when they must curse the little work with them have, right? So they're connecting. Generally, they are. What they need is a chance to connect with their leader. That's what they need. A chance to actually connect with their leader. So that C in the sauce is very important. Leaders must find a way to connect with their teams. Now I know the jury's out on how much should we do because as a leader, you don't want to be too familiar and this, that, that. You will know where to draw the line. But it's important for that kind of connection. And the E is empowerment. The best leaders are the ones that allow their team members to shine. We should never have people on our team singing, when it's gonna be my time to shine, I'm in my prime. As leaders, we should see that Vanessa is ready for this, that Shamar is ready for this. And we're not gatekeeping and holding them back because they're the comfort store departments or we like the work that they do and we don't want them going because they're going to throw everything out of whack. The best leaders develop other leaders. The best leaders grow leaders and send them off. The best leaders sit down and say, I hired that one when them I kill it somewhere else or in the same organization. The best leaders empower persons. So if we want to talk about the ripple effect and how the way we lead shapes others, hear me, no man. Number one, remember that the ripple is not about me. The ripple is other focused. Get ourselves into the mind of big picture thinking, that we're not just thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about all the other players in the picture as well. And that's a hard task, but it's important to do it. And if you are lost and insecure and you cannot find your way, get yourself a copy of The Ripple Effect, 5 keys to making a difference that lasts. Follow those keys daily, minutely, hourly, monthly, and it will definitely change the way you lead. And if you still don't know what you're doing, sprinkle the sauce or dash it out. I don't care. Support, authenticity, understanding, connection, and empowerment. And I guarantee you, it will change the way how your leadership shapes others. I pray I want to have some questions. But I really hope that this was helpful, that it was impactful, and that you learned something. Mr. Shamar, over to you. Wait, wait, Shamar, hello?
No, so everybody, so don't mind me. I'm over here because my notepad is really full with a lot of quotes actually writing. So I hope that just as everybody else, we've enjoyed listening. I've learned so much. The ripple is not about you. The ripples is others focused. Ensure you're conditioning your mind to have a big person picture and not selfie picture. Important is so important. I was around the corner there saying, oh my gosh, I don't want somebody said traffic don't come in tomorrow because there's going to be a gas crisis. But thanks so much. And of course, we encouraging persons. Definitely, of course, sending your questions for Sandrina if you've been, of course, I'm enjoying the conversation, hearing how much of what she said about the 5 keys and for 5 keys as well. I have some so written down myself as I just highlight some comments, of course, that we've been seeing. As Vanessa mentions, empowerment is so important. That referring to your question there about how it is that we have to lift up people without also making them feel embarrassed. I've also, Sanjay, want to add in. I heard someone say a quote, a session, actually in our very first session, and that presenter said something, and I was like, it's connecting. And they said, try to not put someone in an embarrassing position publicly if you can help it. And the example you gave, I thought, was so strong that I think was fantastic. If nobody's shy with their questions, I might start with one. Hopefully, it brings it out. So I want to say you shared about empathy and listening, right, and what that looks like in principle. But if somebody goes to work tomorrow, right, and let's say they usually don't do this well, what are, if there are 2 to 3 specific things that they can do differently? So let's say they are the leader in the situation, that they can start doing in conversations to make people feel heard.
Yeah, I think so. If you're gonna start, then you're also going to be thinking that the people that have not experienced this from you before are going to be like, right? So you want to ease on in with it. And I there is this thing I always say, that it's so important that we pay attention. A lot of times, if we're honest, we're not paying attention. So for the leader who wants to start listening a little bit more, or giving the voice to their team, just start by paying attention, because people are always telling us what's going on. We just have to be paying attention. So let's use an example. um, if you are a strong leader, and I use the word strong candidly because it could mean authoritarian, what I say goes, and tonight you say, boy, I really should try this. Don't just go tomorrow and say, guys, talk to me. We don't have anything to say to you, actually, because of what we've experienced over time. But what you can do is ease on in. So you're going to just bring down the strong meter slowly. They're going to notice the difference. And when it feels safe, they're going to open their mouths and say something. You just have to be paying attention. Also, don't try this in a large group setting. Go back to the one on one approach. Be also very much aware of the persons in the team that have the influence. You'll know who people follow back, or whose opinion they side with, because you're paying attention. And then now you start with those persons, because everybody, every organization, every team member have a little one done. Whether that one done was working there from Wapikil Phillip, or that one done just have the charisma to have the influence. You want to make sure that you are in conversation with the one done. Because after the one done sees you differently, they're gonna tell them at lunch, no, no, Miss Sandrina change. Guys, give her a chance. She not so wicked again. Yeah. And so there are certain ways that you can go about it.
All right, thank you so much. And we have our first question I see here, putting up on the screen now. It's from the Mentee of the Year that asks, how can empowerment be sustained so that it leads to transformation rather than temporary motivation? I love that question.
I love that question too. And I may get in trouble for this, but here's the thing. At base, persons working within an organization want to move. It's highly unlikely that anybody wants to stay the same space forever and ever. Amen. Yes? Um, as the leader, you should have those conversations with your persons. What are your hopes and dreams? Shamar, you've been here for 2 years. What do you want? In those conversations, by the way, if you've built up trust, somebody will tell you, well, I'm trying to leave here next year. I'm gonna start my own business. If you've built up trust with your team, they will tell you. Um, and so when you have those conversations, you can say, hey, I think this is a route that could work for you. I'm going to have a discussion with HR to see how is that possible. But you also have to be such a good leader that when you learn that it's not possible for the team member, that you go and let them know, because you don't want to violate trust. I've been in work teams where I've seen somebody go from the pit from the bottom to the pinnacle, supported by their leader. I've also been in a space where I'm leading somebody and we have a vision for where they're going, and I learned that they're never going to get there based on whatever. And I had to go to the person and say, hey, I know I promised you this, but it's not going to happen. Please think about how it can happen for you elsewhere. No, that's an unorthodox approach. But the leader who is focused on empowerment should not sacrifice the relationship and the trust that they've built by hiding the fact that what a hope or a dream for a team member is, that it will never be realized right where they are. Now, the truth is, you can say to them, maybe you need to go back to school to make this a reality. Maybe you need another certification, but you also would know truthfully that it not happening here. So to answer the question, sustaining the empowerment is kind of helping your team members to map out the route for where they want to go, then figuring out how you can support them to get there. But if you realize that they will never get there on their leadership or in the space that they're in, then you should also let them know that This is going to be a hard task. So, hey, you can choose to still stick, or you can try to see how you can map out another course for yourself. And that for me will ensure that they don't just feel like, because sometimes they say, Shamar, you are so excellent. Oh my God, you're the greatest one that we have on the team. I don't know what we would do without you. 10 years later, you're still team leader. Wicked. If you are the greatest, then I need to be figuring out how the world can know that you are the greatest, not just me. Yes? I hope that answers your question, mentee of the year.
It does. It does so much. So I've received a message with another question that actually says, when your leadership creates a ripple that you do not intend, what are obviously some of the things you can do to course correct in that moment? Right. So
Right.
what if you create a ripple you don't intend?
Yeah. And also, the first thing is to ensure that you are honest in your expressions. I think we
Wow.
don't play how people value our honesty. And as leaders, sometimes because we always want to be right, or we think we need to be in the right, then we miss the opportunity for people to see us as humans. We get a chance for persons to know that we still use the same blood from the blood bank like them, that we still are going to go to Medarest or Dovecot, right? By being honest. So if you have had a ripple that you did not intend, course correcting is bringing everybody together. Hi, hey team, this thing that I had set out for us to do, I actually was hoping this would happen. It didn't happen. And I'm so sorry. In fact, I miscalculated. Me, the leader, I made a mistake. Shock and awe. But let me tell you, the people that you lead are going to be like, oh, so we can help you fix it. Because they're just like, what? A real person is here? How can we help you? And you would be surprised how the course correction takes place. If we as leaders continue to be wrong and strong, what we get is pushback. Oh, you're not even gonna admit. All right, you go do it yourself. Since you can do it by yourself, go on, right? So we have to just figure out how. But you see, if we're not building relationships with our teams, if we're not getting to know them, then we won't know what they're ready for. A lot of us have no idea who is working with us or for us. We just know that they do a good job. Yeah, it's going to be important that we get to know them, and when you get to know them, you know what you're able to share. You know what you can tell.
All right, thank you. You're giving us more sound bites that we have to take notes. And I want to use this moment to remind everybody that, of course, if you continue to subscribe and follow Equip to Speak here in our channels, that of course these conversations continue to be made available and the replay, because we definitely have to go back and write all of these down. So I'm here looking up the next question that's coming in and try to take ownership. But of course, Sandrine, you've been giving excellent advice here and points. Of course, and I know there might be somebody listening and saying, all right, Miss Sandrina, but I'm early in my career, and a lot of what I'm hearing, I can easily feel like I'm just on the receiving end. It sounds like you're saying of people, however my manager wants to treat me. So it's two questions. For those persons earlier on, what are some of the ways that they can still take ownership, for example, of how they can show up in those environments and not feeling frustrated because, well, their manager hasn't yet taken the advice from Sandrina about hearing to them yet, and they don't feel frustrated. And the part two for that is just for them strategy for how they go forward. For someone trying to grow in their career, what are the small, perhaps as you've said, the everyday behaviors that they have to develop that might come to shape how the manager will see and trust them over time. So if I'm a young person, what do I do originally? My manager's not listening. How do I not get frustrated?
Always go the extra mile because it's never crowded. That is still strong to this day. It will never change, regardless of how things get technological and fancy. The people that do more stand out, full stop. And so we want to be thinking about the fact that what we do in the workspace as non-leaders, as entry level, as middle, um, that we have to remember that our reputation is at stake, that somebody is always watching, right? So we're not reactive. I'm not this way because my manager is this way. I am this way, full stop. I am punctual. I am respectful. I stick to deadlines. I deliver, above and beyond. I meet expectations and exceed it. Like, we have to take ownership of the reputation that we want as employees, as entrepreneurs, whatever it is. You must decide, how do I want to be known in this space? Now, how I want to be known in this space is not dependent on how the other people around me are. You get what I'm saying? And so, if you are very clear that you are building your legacy as you go on, it is going to be noticed. Sometimes it takes a little longer for people to see that, boy, Shamar really has stood out all this time despite the 10 awful managers that he has had. But we're gonna see it. And so I want to tell someone who is saying, boy, Sandrina, you sound like a dream, but I don't have that. Don't change who you are to match what you have. Build your legacy, because somebody is going to see it, because someone is always watching. And there are places that we're going to be that will never see the light that we have until we've moved on. Or when we are doing it elsewhere and shining, they're like, oh, that's the same light that we had. Why didn't we see it before? But consistency for us is going to be very important. What we do in our workspaces has nothing to do with who lead us. It is about the legacy we want to leave. And so we have to just take some time, decide, what kind of supervisor do I want to be? What kind of telephone operator? What kind of entry level? What kind of middle manager? What kind of, what kind of? And when you've mapped that out, you get up every day and you try to be that. And if your leader is not modeling what you would hope, show it to your leader. Model it for them. It's possible.
You know, you already started to kind of somewhat answer the other question we got while you were speaking. You know, that says how we have
Yeah.
to continue to keep that confidence if we're being overlooked. And you touched on it, and I was thinking perhaps the answer right as I asked it, which is, as you said, and perhaps it's sometimes I was gonna say a follow up to say sometimes a young person might be hearing and saying, Sandrina's fine, but I have many friends we feel like we're stuck. We feel like I work hard, everybody else, and I feel like I'm continuing the state of making people realize my value. And then I was thinking that, well, that's also why we have these conversations in professional development. You don't do this just for that organization or place that you're at, but we're here wanting you to elevate your own soft skills, your technical skills, your own reputation of legacy, of the quality that you consistently perform. And the truth of the matter, and I think, you know, you might get in trouble, but we are a space here that provides the community for these conversations. We won't get in trouble. That to say, sometimes the space that allows you to learn these things and recognize its value might not be where it gets utilized at its highest point. And sometimes that experience gets built afterwards, right? But it's of course important understanding these lessons, and of course taking as much opportunities for growth, especially because sometimes that's the moment you realize when it's time to go, when it's time to pivot. And I'm sure many of us felt that drape when she said you were still the team leader for 10 years. I'm seeing our peers persons agreeing, love what we're saying. The ownership response, definitely. Indeed, I know if nobody has any other questions for Sandrina, if they do, I want to, you know, if there's anybody perhaps wondering or asking if, you know, Sandrina, I had to take a picture of the screen when you said the 5 keys because I'm not yet finished with your book. Fantastic, by the way. I think it really true speaks to the values of how you lead with your leadership. But I want to say for somebody, if they joined 15 minutes ago, they perhaps missed that portion and they've only heard the questions. I want to say if someone might find a question to you from my end, unless we get another, is if someone remembers nothing else, you know, from this part of the conversation, what's one shift you want them to make starting now? So let's say this is somebody just starting out, right? Or let's say also from the perspective of the team leader, what's one shift you want them starting to make? Because maybe they can't start with all 5 keys at once. Maybe there's like you said, there's a lot of stuff happening. What's one thing you think definitely they should start shifting now if they haven't before?
Building authentic relationships. The key would have said love equals relationship. But the truth is, and I reiterate because it's so strong, that all our problems are people problems. All our problems in this life. Right? We see the ripple effect of the fights and the wars and the this and the that. But the truth is, at base, all our problems are people problems. And so if we are able to work on our interpersonal relationships, you'd be surprised how a lot more of our journey becomes easier. That's something that I have, worked at a lot in my life, that I want to build authentic, meaningful relationships. Some are deeper than others, because you won't be best friends with everybody, but that you want to really approach things from an authentic place. And once you build meaningful relationships, then you have a whole group of people that are supporting you, that are looking out for you, that will run to your rescue, that will help you. And that is something that you can find in your workspaces and places if you choose to represent what you want. So I always say that we can attract it if we are modeling it as well. And so I think for any young person, work on our people relationships. And I hate to do this, but as you talk about the generational differences, right? As proud millennial over here, I doubt there are any more millennials on this, right? So as the generations are shifting, people, we are losing in some ways the people touch. But at base, the people touch is critical. And so we have to find a way to make sure that we can, in some ways, manage our relationships.
Again, thank you so much. We are going to have our notebooks full of content so far from Miss Davis. Sandrina, I want to thank you so much for essentially providing us with reinforcing the values that we really should even have. You provided multiple perspectives, right? If for those of us that, as you mentioned, not even just formal leadership, but all of us are leaders in kind of some way. And I'm sure, hopefully, beginning tomorrow morning, for those who are going to work on our school environments, right? If someone is sick, someone is unwell, right? And how we treat them with empathy, we don't need to tell everybody, right? Definitely. And so I want to thank you so much for your tidbits. I'm getting a message that you might actually, some persons actually inquiring how it is, for example, to your book is available. So Equip to Speak will also post the links. Well, of course, are available on Amazon or paperback. We will, of course, provide those avenues as well for you, and facilitate that. As I see comments saying exceptional session, an exceptional presenter. I wanted to bring back up the little ripple on the screen right before you ended right here, because I thought that was so impactful. One of my favorite quotes of the night was, so we've been here, ripple effect, but it's that this ripple is not about us. And this ripple is others led, others driven. And I thought that was so something definitely if it can stick in our minds. And I just want to thank you so much, Sandrina, for providing us with this session. I think you might definitely have a lot of more opportunities, perhaps to continue to share this information about your five keys. But we want to thank you so much, as I see more persons coming in private messages saying exceptional session. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for providing to us on another Equipped to Speak conversation professional development session. We are continually appreciative for all of those who continue to, of course, send us messages, send us comments and thoughts about want more comments and future episodes. Of course, as agreed as well, these episodes are continually available on our YouTube channel. You may also go to equiptospeak.com and all will be made available. Thank you so much. As we always say here, we provide your ultimate space for your personal and professional development. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much and have a fantastic evening. Thank you.